Greetings and salutations. Thanks for clicking on the video. Today we are going to take a sneak peek at Ubuntu 16.04 LTS. It is called Joniel Xeris. Alright, so the first word looks like Xenial. I'm not exactly sure what it means. Xenial. But I did look up the pronunciation, and it's Joniel. A Xeris, Xerus, is a ground squirrel that lives in Africa. So we continue the tradition of Ubuntu coming up with crazy code names for their releases based on weird animals. It is always a big deal when Ubuntu releases a long-term support version, simply because there are so many other projects in the Linux world that depend on Ubuntu. There are all the flavors of Ubuntu with the different desktop environments, and then there are many OSs that are actually based on Ubuntu, like Linux Mint, Elementary, Zorin, and so forth. And so it's a big deal. Excuse me. All right. This time around, I am actually prepared. I have notes. Most of the time when I do these videos, I just sort of load it up and give you my first impression. Those are the a look at videos. Somebody criticized me on that point in a comment and said that I should do more research. And I have mixed feelings about that. Yes, I do like to do research before I do these videos, but at the same time, I also want to give you my experience as it happens when I'm looking at the operating system, hopefully to mirror the kind of experience that you would have. Because, for instance, with Elementary, I didn't know half the names of all that stuff. It wasn't in there anywhere. And also with OpenSUSE, I failed to mention the one-click install feature. Somebody said, well, why didn't you talk about that? I said, well, because it's not apparent anywhere when you actually install the system and start looking around. The one-click feature in OpenSUSE is that you can go to their website, do a search for a particular program, and then just click on it and it will install on your machine, which you have to admit is pretty cool. Anyway, back to Ubuntu before I get off rambling on about something else. I did make notes, and there are a lot of features to talk about. However, there won't be a great deal of exciting stuff to see in this video, simply because of the fact that at this stage of development, it looks like Wily Werewolf 1510. But a few of the important features have made it in, and I figured they were far enough along on the daily builds that this would be a good time to take a look at one. We are still, 6-7 weeks out from the official release of Ubuntu 16.04. So, let us get logged in, and then we can start looking around and talking about the features here. By the way, the host operating system we're running this on is Ubuntu 14.04, which is the last long-term support release from 2 years ago. Okay, this is what it looks like. We have an error about correcting the monitor settings. That's probably because it's running in a virtual environment. I did have a bit of a problem getting this installed. I ran across a bug, but I found a workaround, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later on in the video. It was a bit of an adventure to get it actually installed and up and running in VirtualBox, but once I got through that, I have not run into any major issues. It's actually worked quite well, and I did this last night. So, all right, let's talk about some of the big changes that we're looking forward to in Ubuntu 16.04. First of all, let's talk a little bit about what an LTS is, for those of you who may not be familiar. Ubuntu releases a version every 6 months, like clockwork, and they do it in the 4th month and the 10th month. So that's why you have the version numbers, for instance, like 1510. It was released in 2015 in October, so it's 1510. And then every 2 years, they do the long-term support release. And the long-term support release is supported for 5 years. So the current long-term support release is Ubuntu 14.04, and it will receive security updates until 2019, meaning that if you are running that on your computer right now, that you don't have to worry about having to upgrade or reinstall. However, After 2 years, development ceases on an LTS, and so pretty much after 16.04 comes along, Ubuntu 14.04 is probably not going to get a whole ton of new features and that sort of thing. However, the canonical developers have actually done a lot of backporting to 14.04 in the last 2 years. So a lot of new features have come back to it anyway, like you can upgrade the kernel. It started out with the 3.13 kernel and then went to 3.16, and now we're on 3.19. You have to install that if you want it, but it's available for Ubuntu 14.04. So I'm assuming that they'll kind of continue to do that. And 14.04, of course, was a huge release for Ubuntu. It launched them to a whole new level. 16.04 appears to be more of the same, and it's not going to be that much different. So let's jump in and take a look at a couple of things. First of all, we need to talk about the kernel, because this time around they actually have a long-term support release of the kernel in here. When 14.04 came along, the feature lock-in happened before the Linux Foundation released the 3.14 version of the kernel, which was a long-term support release. So Ubuntu decided that they would maintain 3.13, which they did, and then they went to 3.16, which now if you install Ubuntu 14.04, that's what you're going to get. And also kernel 3.19 is available in a long-term support package from Ubuntu. But this time around, we're going to start with kernel 4.4.0-7. That's what's running, and this is an official Linux Foundation long-term support release. So that is pretty cool. Now, a couple of really big things that they've done here that I'm very happy to see. If you install Ubuntu and I'm the one who is telling you to do it, the first thing, or telling you how to do it or stepping you through this, I do this with every Easy Linux client. The first thing that you need to do before you do anything else once it's installed is go to this security and privacy tab thing in the settings. Open up, please. Thank you. And go to this search and turn this off. This is now disabled by default. And what this is that up until now, from I don't know when they started this. It was either 11.10. It's been a long time ago, gang, that they've had this feature in here. When you would go to search in the dash on Ubuntu, then it would go out to Amazon and Wikipedia and a bunch of other places and try and find web results for your search. And a lot of folks in the Linux community considered that to be akin to adware or spyware, which it was, and it is, because the idea behind it was that Ubuntu would get a little bit of a kickback. It would generate a revenue stream for them. They are actually selling Ubuntu users search results to Amazon or whoever it was. And so you could switch it off, and that was the first thing I always told people to do, because it didn't, number one, it didn't work very well, and number two, it would return very strange results. Like, for instance, if you went into the dash, this opened the one on the, and you type in BRA, for instance, okay, and you were going after Brasaro right here, which is a disk burner program, right? You'd get ads that came up in the bottom for bras. It was goofy. So, nobody wanted to see that. So now it's switched off by default, but the functionality is still here should there be any person out there who actually wants it. And I don't know who that is, and if you are one of those people, maybe you ought to go have your head checked. But anyway, that's number one there. That's a cool thing that they finally did. You still get the little Amazon web app over here in the launcher when you first started off. And that is, if you open that up and then you log into your Amazon account and you buy something, Ubuntu gets a tiny percentage of that. So it's a way that you can support Ubuntu if you wanted to. All right. The Unity launcher, this thing over here, We have two of them because we have one on 14.04 and we have one on 16.04. You can't move this up until now. You could not move this at all. It is where it is, and you could auto hide it, but the auto hide function was a little bit strange. It didn't work very well, and you would actually have to swipe and kind of bang the mouse cursor over to the edge of the screen to get that to work. You couldn't just drag it over and touch it. And so I never auto hide it. I always just leave it there simply because it works funny. Now they are going to make it so that we can move that to the bottom if we want to. And so we can have more of a traditional look to the desktop. Still no word on being able to get this bar to auto hide, but you will be able to move that. Now, in this current build, there is no setting to do that. I looked all over the place in the behavior for the launcher. I even installed the Unity tweak tool to see if I could get that functionality, and it's not here yet. So I'm sure that that will come along when they do the finishing touches on the system. But that should be interesting to see exactly how that functionality works. Let's see, what else is there to talk about? ZFS is something that needs to be mentioned. Now, most folks who watch this video are going to be standard desktop users, and they're going to be very happy with ext4, which is the standard file system that is used on your hard drives when you install Ubuntu. However, if you have a lot of large files, or if you are running a very large storage array like a RAID system with a lot of drives in it, there is a really cool new thing called ZFS. And it is native to BSD Unix. And it has been their standard file system for a while now. And a lot of folks in Linux have wanted to have it ported over. And Ubuntu is doing that. And I just want to confirm, yep, ext4 is still the standard. I knew that because ZFS is just going to be a choice if you do a custom install, like if you're doing a server. So in the installer, they may have a box that you can tick for that. And that's a big deal for enterprise users and people who want to run servers. It's not that big a deal for folks like us who just run a desktop. ext4 is perfectly fine for that. And if you're more interested in that, you can always check it out. The Software Center. Oh, the lovely Software Center. You know, since I guess Ubuntu 12.04, I have done everything in my power to avoid using the Software Center. I install Synaptic Package Manager, install from the terminal, and use the GDebi package installer to install deb files, and never use that thing. Well, they have finally decided that they're going to dump that. So it goes away, it goes bye-bye. You know, I had somebody in a comment through a video, they were actually arguing with me, talking about how great Software Center was. The last time that I tried to use Software Center was probably a week or two ago. I was trying to do a quick and dirty install, and by mistake, I actually used the Software Center to try and install Google Chrome from the deb file. And what happened was that it crashed halfway in between, and I had to restart the computer. And then I went and installed GDebi and did it right, and it worked just fine. The Software Center, it was really just not very good all the way around. So the solution now is to use this nifty new tool that comes to us from the GNOME project. The GNOME project has this application called Software. It is cross-platform. You can use it on any operating system that has the GNOME desktop native to it. So you can use this on Fedora, you can use it on Arch. I don't know about OpenSUSE, but it was actually in OpenSUSE when I looked because I installed the GNOME version, so maybe you can. I'm not really sure how that works in there. And this is a graphic installer for software, and right now they do not seem to have it hooked up to anything. This is just showing what is actually installed in the system, even when you do a search here. So let's try and find Geary. See, nothing there. But if I look at Thunderbird, See, it comes up because it's installed. So the software is installed in this daily build, but it is not working as of yet. I'm pretty sure that that will be done by the time the full release comes out, the official finished version. They were talking about doing this. There was some speculation that maybe they would not have this finished by the time that 1604 came along. I am really happy to see this particular application here. So for the time being, for graphical installation on this VM, I went ahead and installed Synaptic and put GDEB-I on here. So, but this is a cool feature that I'm very happy to see coming along. I tried Fedora 23 a while back, and I played around with that, and it wasn't quite working right in Fedora 23. I kind of downloaded Fedora 23 like a day or two after it came out, and they hadn't completely fleshed it out yet, but from what I could get it to do, it was really cool. So I'm looking forward to working with that application. Firmware updates will be able to be installed from Ubuntu natively, and this has to do with the Linux kernel 4.2, which means that you can update your BIOS and EFI firmware from the desktop. And before, I think you had to probably do that from a terminal or whatever, so that is something that's coming along. And you can do that through GNOME software, so it will handle firmware, which is really cool. That's a graphical way of doing that, so awesome sauce. Like I said, once they get the whole GNOME software package set up and ready to go, then there you go. Unity 8 is going to be available in Ubuntu 16.04. So the default version will be Unity 7, which is pretty much what we have in Ubuntu 14.04 now and 16.04 and all of the interim releases. And then you will have the option to install Unity 8, which is the next version that comes along. Unity 8 is going to be something that will maybe be default by Ubuntu 16.10. By 16.10, we will have moved on from 7 and be on 8, maybe. We will see. Unity 8 has been a long time in development, a really long time. And I heard an interview not too long ago. Somebody asked Mark Shuttleworth about it, and he said that they just wanted to make sure that it was perfect before they made it the default. But it will be available to you if you want to get Unity 8. Unity 7 will be the default. And finally, as I mentioned in the last video, the Q&A, I was talking about Snappy package management. That should be available in Ubuntu. As a matter of fact, it's on here now, but I have no clue how to use it, and you have to do it from a command line, and I wouldn't even know where to look. So what is Snappy? What is that all about? Well, the Snappy is a new way of installing software on an Ubuntu system. What it does is it goes out to GitHub, which is a repository for source code. And so if you wanted to install a Snappy package, it would go out to GitHub, get the source code, and compile it locally on your machine. And it would do that in a sandbox, which means that right now, if you use sudo apt install, what you're actually doing is you give that installer root access. It has the ability to change everything on the machine, which is cool if you trust exactly where that package is coming from. With Snappy, when you install it, it doesn't have to have root access. And so that's pretty cool. So you can install a piece of software, you can play with it, you can use it, and you never had to give the system root access to install it. And so we will learn more about Snappy as we roll along. And that is supposed to be available here in 16.04. And it's going to be an option as they develop that project that you can play with. I don't think that is ready for prime time yet, but it will be here. You can play with it. So there you go, gang. It is a look at Ubuntu 16.04. Not much to see because not much has changed, especially in this early version. They do have some different wallpapers in here to look at, but the thing is that when they get to the official release, that's when all of the final touches and the cosmetic things will be in place. Now let me tell you about the installation that I went through. I saved this to the end of the video because I figured some people wouldn't care about this. So I go and install the daily build. No big deal. Do a search on the web for Ubuntu 16.04 daily build, and you'll find it on the Ubuntu site. Let me get a sip of a drink. And so I downloaded it, and I booted it up. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and boot it up. I'll show you what it did, because it won't be that big a deal to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. But what I did was I downloaded it, and then I went to install it, and it would only get so far, and then I got an error crash that said that the Ubiquiti installer had crashed. So if I come in here and I go to settings, and we go to storage, and then I want to attach a new device, and I am going to get one of these ISOs. I downloaded it twice by accident. Okay, so we're going to attach that, and we're going to say OK. Now when I start this up, it should boot off of the live DVD image. So here it comes. Well, you'll see what it does. It'll just crash, and the Ubiquiti installer will not work. And hopefully I can recreate this so I can show this to you, because this was cool. This is something I've never seen Ubuntu do before when there was an error. And I was able to fix the problem, and I'm going to show you how. But what it turned out to be, after I did a little research, is that right now, if you try and install this daily build on a computer that is a laptop and has a battery, it won't work. It'll crash. There's some sort of subsystem in there that detects whether you're running on a laptop with a battery. Okay, this should crash. Yep, there it goes. So I'm going to continue here. And now it's going to go try and file that report. And the only way to actually get it installed is to remove the battery from the laptop. Alright, and I should get a Firefox here that pops up, and it will actually take us directly to that bug report. Here it is. So I was able to go in here and read the bug report to find the workaround. I have never seen this system actually take you to the bug report before. So that was really cool. I wish I could get that reader view thing to go away. Thank you. So it actually took you to the bug report, and then you could look up the workarounds in the comments down here. So if it's a known bug that's causing a problem on your system, it will take you to the Launchpad site there, and there you go. Pretty cool, huh? So what I did to install was simply take the battery out of the laptop, shut it down, take the battery out, plug the power supply in, reboot the system. I guess through VirtualBox, the VirtualBox hypervisor actually reports that it's a laptop to the virtual machine. You could probably change that setting in there, but I just took the battery out, and then I was able to install. After I installed it that way, which is something really cool, everything worked. I didn't have any problem getting the drivers installed for the guest editions in VirtualBox or anything. So that was pretty awesome. Go ahead and shut this down now, because we're done playing around and I'm about done with the video. So there you go, gang. It's a sneak peek. It's what it looks like. I'm sure it will be different in 7 or 8 weeks when it comes along for real, and all of the final touches will be in place. And of course, I'm just going to run this and run updates on it occasionally. And usually these daily builds, they will actually become the standard operating system with updates. So if you want to, you could actually install this and play with it now. And just don't do it on any machine that you need to make sure is working, because this is like a beta at this point and very unstable. Like here, it's not wanting to shut down. So we'll just force it to shut down. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure and check out freedompenguin.com. Lots of cool articles coming up on Freedom Penguin lately from all the contributors there. Check out Easy Linux on the web. Check out Easy Linux at Facebook. And if you do that, give it a like if you would, please. I'd appreciate it. And we will talk again soon. Thanks for watching, gang.